Today, I'm going to tell you the steps you need to take to launch a career in commercial directing and why commercials might be the best route to take if you're looking to get into feature films, and especially if one day you hope to work with the studios. Now, we're going to talk about finding your niche, producing a reel, and where to go to get work with commercials. Now, just to be clear, we're not going to talk at all about starting a production company. I think the smarter route to take and the better route to take is to be a free agent in this game and not saddle yourself with the burden of being a boss. But if you're new to the channel, just joining us for the first time, be sure and subscribe, hit the bell below for notifications so you don't miss a thing. Now, the first thing you need to know is that commercial directors make a ton of money. Why is that important? Sustainability. Let's be honest. We all got into filmmaking ideally for this to be our career, for something to hold us up and keep us going. And there's a lot of things we can do with that money later on down the road, whether it's financing our own projects or just having sort of stability to explore things that later on down the road might not be so financially viable. On average, I'd say a commercial director stands to make close to $100,000 US dollars on a single commercial. And we're talking about 10 days, 20 days worth of work for that, for planning, production, and post-production. Now, why on earth would they pay someone that much money to direct a commercial? How could they even do that? It's because commercials cost a ton of money to produce. The average 30-second spot for a very well-known brand can easily run between $1 and $1.5 million. And I'd say even a low-budget commercial for a small brand will most likely be at least $150,000 to almost $250,000 just for that 30-second spot, for that 30-second campaign. Why is that? Well, honestly, it's quality insurance. Because in an ad campaign, the commercial, the actual physical commercial product, is the cheapest part of an advertising campaign. There's so much more being put into that for the creative work, for the ad placement, for every other aspect of this commercial, this campaign that they're launching, this brand. The commercial itself is one of the lower costs, but they want to be sure that if they're putting all these resources into it, all this money into getting it out there, that they want it to be the absolute best. And they do that by throwing a lot of money at it to make sure that they get exactly what they want. So that's good news for you. The average national cost for a 30-second spot in the United States right now is about $115,000 for one single 30-second ad play. Now think about that. Over the entire duration of this campaign, how many times is this ad getting played? Hundreds of times, each one costing, like I said, on average, $115,000 per play. It is a huge expense, and there's no mistakes that can be made. So now if 115 is just the average, that of course means there's placements that cost even more than that. So let's take a quick look at what some of the costs are for some really high profile ad placement. Now these numbers are on adage.com, and I will say that they are from 2018, the ad costs. I would say though that is a pretty good indication of what they're costing today. Although I will say 2020, the way it's going, a lot of these prices are bound to go down quite a bit. So the number one most expensive ad placement is for 30 seconds on NBC's Sunday Night Football at $665,000 for 30 seconds of play. Think about that, $660,000. So suddenly like that $1.5 million commercial cost to produce it seems pretty low considering you run that 3 times during Sunday Night Football and you've already exceeded the actual budget for the production of that spot. Going beyond that, number 2 for 2018, Fox Thursday Night Football at $434,000, as well as NBC's This Is Us, $433,000 for 30 seconds of ad play. That's expensive ad play. CBS Big Bang Theory, $285,000. Fox's Empire, $227,000. Young Sheldon, rest in peace, $213,000. So yeah, you're walking out of it with $100,000 directing the commercial. That isn't even what it cost to play that spot one time for these clients. So maybe you're not all about the money. Maybe you don't care about that. Believe it or not, there are people that, they don't care about money. They didn't get into this for the money. What would be then the other incentive to go into advertising, into commercial work as a means to grow your career? Well, commercial directors are the number one most viable candidates for studio production and big budget production films, even more so than indie directors, even more so than the guy that won Sundance. Why is that? If you're shooting a McDonald's commercial that's 30 seconds for $1.5 million, it tells them that you're going to be able to handle the $150 million that goes into the feature-length production of whatever tentpole film they're financing. It shows that you're not going to be overwhelmed, that you're not going to know how to manage that size of a crew, that size of a budget, that size of a production, because you've been able to do it on a very micro level. Now, you may be thinking, well, shouldn't it make more sense that you can manage a feature-length film? Yes and no, because generally if you're working on a micro budget or a low budget film, you're cutting a lot of corners. And again, once serious money starts coming into play, you're not allowed to cut corners, because cutting corners means taking risks, which means jeopardizing the product. And that is the last thing anyone wants to do when this much money is in play, is jeopardize the product. So you can prove that you've been trusted, A, with a significantly large budget, and B, that you can protect a brand. You can protect a brand name. Think about the large franchise films. They are brands. Jurassic Park, Marvel films, Star Wars. It shows that they can trust you with the work, and therefore they're much more likely to hire you. So that is why it is an outstanding route to go if you're really looking to get onto big budget pictures. So now maybe you don't want to work with the studio, or you don't want to be doing big budget pictures. This is still a great route to go, because even if you're going indie, you're still working with a lot of money, a lot more money than most people will ever make in their lifetime, and you're dealing with financiers. And by showing them that you can be trusted with money and be trusted with a brand, and you can deliver product on time, is a huge assurance to them that they can trust you. So even if you're only going the indie route and you're not planning to step into the studios, this is still a great way to go, just to sort of bring validity to yourself and show that you can manage a large project. So now obviously this isn't going to be easy to do, getting into commercial directing, especially getting in a position where you're working with very large brands and very large budgets. Okay, getting into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you've decided you want to get into commercial directing is to pick a niche or a specialization. This goes for both DPs and directors. You need to pick one, and that's what you're going to specialize in, and that's what you're going to be very good at. It's very important for you to grasp this concept, because for a lot of people who think, well, I'm going to cover a whole lot of different things so that I have options. You're pitching for very specific jobs, and clients are looking for very specific things. And the best thing you can do in preparing yourself for this, we'll get into the reels in a second, but you want to be the guy that when the client looks at your reel, they pretty much see their ad already on your reel. They want to know, this is our guy. He focuses exactly on what we're looking to do. This is who we're going to hire. And you can only do that by having a very specialized and specific plan of attack and work only within a specific niche. So let's talk real quick about what these categories are, what the specialization groups or the niches are, because there's actually quite a few. And like I said, they're very, very specific. Aerial, animals, animation, baby, beauty, car action, car beauty, car studio, celebrity, comedy, dialogue, documentary, emotional, food, graphics, hair, kids, lifestyle. That's kind of the broadest category of all of them. You've got liquids, music video style, people/real people, slice of life, special effects, sports and athletes, storytelling, tabletop, testimonial, time-lapse, tourism, underwater, and vignettes. One other category I think they sort of left out that's a big one these days is gaming and other technologies like cell phones. Both clients and production companies, they don't want to know that you can do a lot of things. They want to know that you can do one thing. They want to know that you can do their thing, the thing that they are asking for. They want to look at your reel and see 6 fried chicken commercials and say, okay, this guy knows how to make a fried chicken commercial. A cinematographer I worked with once booked a gig to film. It was a Rolling Rock commercial. And the client that day on set asked him, oh, so have you ever shot a green bottle before? He said, no, but I've done plenty of brown bottles. And they said, well, Rolling Rock's green. He said, yeah, but I'm comfortable. I can do this. And he was fired. They delayed production for a day, brought in a new cinematographer that had experience shooting green bottles. So just because he'd done hundreds of commercials, he'd shot in lots of bottles, lots of liquids, but just because he didn't have experience lighting and shooting a green bottle, they fired him and brought someone else on. So like I said, you cannot focus and specialize enough and be specific enough in what it is that you want to be aiming for with this. So pick your niche, stick to it, and focus on it. Now, the second thing you're going to need is a good relationship and to be able to get signed with a production company. Now, in the world of of commercial directing, a production company is pretty much like your agent. They're the ones that are going to be getting you the jobs. And to do this, you need a good reel. Now, unless you've been doing production and commercial production for a while, odds are you're not going to have enough, especially enough focused things within your niche to put on your reel to make this work for you. So what you're going to have to do is make what's called a spec reel and fill it with spec commercials. Now, a spec commercial is pretty much a fake commercial that you've produced for yourself. What you want on this reel are things that look like real commercials, which means you're going to have to put in the time and some of the money to produce very high quality 30-second spots within your niche to fill this reel and have it look believable. Now, you're not really trying to fool people. A lot of people are going to know, especially if they're following commercials and constantly increasing their own commercial literacy. Now, of course, this is going to be a little bit of a pain trying to find ways to get this made, putting in all the effort and energy for something like this. But try and appreciate it now, because honestly, if it comes to commercials, this is the only time you're ever going to have full control over an ad spot, is when you're making your spec commercials. I'll go over a lot more in depth the process of creating your reel in a future video, but for now we're gonna move on. Now, number 3, the next thing you're gonna wanna start doing is your production company outreach. So you wanna start Googling production companies, ideally ones that are working within the niche that you've already established for yourself. You're gonna write them directly, just with a quick email, introducing yourself. My name's Will. I'm a director focused on tabletop. I'm looking to get signed with a production company. Here's my reel. I'd love to speak with you about this more in the future. A lot of production companies are always looking to expand their roster. They're always looking for the next guy that they can sell, because they're going to be able to book gigs off of you. So the chances are, if you're fitting within their niche and your reel is quality, they'll at least give you a call back and maybe even want to meet with you. Production companies, compared to agencies, I'm talking about director agents, are going to be much more receptive to meeting with you sooner rather than later to try and get you off the market. Because if you're good and you're something that they're looking for, they're going to want to talk to you pretty quick. Now, there's chances that they're going to be limited on their roster. If it's the type of work that there's sort of limited availability for, if they've already got a car guy or 2 car guys, they're probably not going to be open up for a third one, because then they're just going to have their own internal directors bidding against each other, and it may cause some conflict. So again, take a look at your niche, take a look at their roster, but understand maybe if their roster's too full, they may not want you. So again, once they sign you, the next step that they're going to do is start sending your reel out to all the agencies that they have connections with, to kind of let them know, hey, we've got a new guy, he's focused in this category. The next campaign you have that involves this, consider us for this director. So again, that's why it's so important for your reel to be good, because it's not only useful for you getting your production company and signing with them, but then the production company uses that to then book you the gigs. The 4th thing you're going to want to start doing is learning how to pitch, learning how to sell. You're going to be doing this a lot. Like I said, you may only book 1 or 2 commercials a year, but you're going to be pitching constantly. You need to understand how to take your vision for this spot, for these words that other people have written, and put your spin on it, and then be able to craft that in a physical way that can be presented. Sometimes you'll be able to be part of the pitch yourself, but usually in the first few rounds, those boards are going to go out without you specifically in the room to help present them. So it's very important that you learn how to do this, that you learn how to build pitches and pitch decks for yourself. Research different trends that are going on right now in advertising. And the best thing you can always be doing is just increasing your advertising literacy. It's very popular after the Super Bowl. There's always those, 10 best Super Bowl ads of the year that everyone watches. But you should be on YouTube constantly, just looking at ad compilations from around the world even. Just understand, what are different advertising? What are different styles people are doing? What's sort of the new thing? What's something different? What's been done and is overused now and I shouldn't pitch? So you need to increase your ad literacy and understand what is out there and what people are doing, so that you yourself can either use that or avoid that. Now, again, I've totally simplified this process. I'll discuss it again in a future video, but for now we're moving on. Number 5, production. Chances are it's going to be very different from anything you've ever done. This is an extremely planned and thoroughly thought out and well executed style of shooting. Gone are the days of just sort of deciding last minute, let's plant the camera over here and let's add this shot to the mix, because your storyboards and everything you've done leading into this production has been passed by the client, gotten their approval. Generally, you're not going to be making up things on the go, because again, that's why they've hired you, and that's why they're paying so much money for this commercial, is because they need it done and executed exactly how it's been planned out. The majority of your job is going to be working as a communicator. The vast majority of the actual creative work will have been done during the preparation of this and then coming up again in the post-production. But while you're on set during production, you're working as the liaison between your crew and the client and the production company, because you're constantly going back to your client, making sure they sign off on what you just shot. They have any questions, if they have any concerns, you're addressing them. So commercial directing, a lot of great stuff to be had from a good career in commercial directing. If this is your thing, it's never too late to start doing your research, start thinking about your niche, start building your reel, start reaching out to production companies, and begin the process, because it will take a little bit of time to get yourself in a position to be doing work and to be doing regular work. And once you've even gotten there, it's going to take a lot of work to stay there, to stay relevant, and to stay on top of the game. We'll go into more depth on all of this in the future and all these different aspects, but I hope for now it's a good overview to give you an idea of what the world of commercial directing is and how it can really work for you, especially if you're wanting to get into larger budget feature filmmaking. Now, a really great resource I recommend if you're really looking to get into commercial directing is The 30-Second Storyteller. It's an outstanding book that really covers everything we just talked about and much, much more in significant detail. I highly recommend it. And that's it. Thanks so much, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you next time.